Marjorie Harvey's glamorous life is about to come to a crashing halt as new details emerge about her troubled past, even in Hollywood. Even after securing the role of Steve Harvey's wife, she can't seem to escape the demons of her past, and her image as a sophisticated and lovely woman is about to be tarnished by 30 secrets of multiple marriages and drug dealing. Welcome back to the Celeb Live channel, where I keep an eye on the biggest scandals in show business and bring you the most up-to-date news. As the saying goes, a day without drama is a day too soon. Marjorie Harvey doesn't give us the opportunity to enjoy this moment because she's under the burning embers of her past. How is it possible that this sophisticated lady was at the heart of a drug ring only a few decades ago, jumping from bed to bed? Stay with me to the end of the video for all the details. When Steve Harvey married his wife, Marjorie, for the third time in 2005, he repeatedly declared that he had finally found his true love. It seems Steve was in love from the first day he met Marjorie, and it took him 18 painful years to finally say "I do" to Marjorie. According to Steve's story, he first met Marjorie at a stand-up show in 1987. She showed up late for one of my shows, and I just fell in love with her from the first time I laid eyes on her. Steve recalls, "The very first thing I said to her was, 'I don't know who you are, but I'll marry you one day.' And that's what I said to her in 1987. Marjorie was married at the time to another man, and Steve wasn't as famous or wealthy as she was, so there wasn't much he could offer her to win her heart. Although it was reported that Steve was dating Marjorie at the time, all communication between them abruptly stopped. Marjorie was living a lavish lifestyle at the time, and her first husband was Jim Townsend, a well-known drug dealer in Memphis, Tennessee, who was considered the king of the drug trade in the city. So, at the time, Marjorie certainly knew where the money was, and she didn't hesitate to stick by Jim's side, and according to sources, she was actively involved in her husband's business endeavors. And it looks like the past is catching up to Marjorie, because both she and Steve may face several issues because of her close relationship with these people. According to sources, Marjorie did not play the role of housewife with 2 children. For Marjorie, it was a roller coaster ride, sharing not only the bad with her husband, but every nuance of his business. Unlike Jim, though, Marjorie had never been caught and convicted. And it appears that Townsend made a deal with the cops because he didn't want the mother of his children to go to jail with him. Yes, Jim was caught buying a bag of product that was the size of a teenager, and you don't get away with that kind of thing. The guy was sentenced to life in prison, and I don't think Marjorie expected him to come back to her. Just when she was on the cusp of her happy life, she rolled out on him and divorced him after 5 years of his sentence. Marjorie ended up sleeping with another dealer named Darnell Woods, and even marrying him. Clearly, something about this drug hustle was important enough to Marjorie for a while, and she probably expected the same level of money and fame. On social media, people speculated whether Marjorie had a soft spot for this business, and if she was not only good at dealing, but also at using. But her newfound happiness didn't last long, as Darnell fell into the same trap as Marjorie's first husband, and the couple divorced after a couple of years. Throughout all this time, Marjorie maintained contact with her first husband, Jim Townsend. According to reports, she even received phone calls from him from prison and even went to visit him. But apparently, Marjorie decided to cut ties with such a dangerous lifestyle. And once Steve Harvey found her, of course, with a lot of money, she cut ties with her past too. Unlike his life in the 90s, Steve Harvey was in a different world when he finally started dating Marjorie. Harvey was prepared to take on the financial responsibility of a woman like her, and he didn't hesitate to make sure that she belonged to him alone. Just a few years later, he asked her to marry him, and it didn't seem strange to him that the woman of his dreams was still married to another man. What a great example to emulate. Steve divorced his wife Mary Lee and asked her to confess that he had left her with nothing because he had only thought of feeding Marjorie's appetites. Being married to 2 royalty certainly raises your standard of living. Many find it interesting that Marjorie was moving from man to man in pursuit of a better and safer financial position. "It sounds like she's been passed around like a rag doll," said one person. "She's not a gold digger. She's one of the finest cons I've ever seen." Another said, "This relationship is one big transaction they both signed up for. It's their business and it'll work until they get tired of paying. But it seems like Steve is still in love with this woman. He was willing to leave his ex-wife in a state of poverty just to provide for his beloved Marjorie. According to Mary Lee, Steve not only gave her the divorce papers, but also tried to silence her by issuing a gag order prohibiting her from speaking out. Mary Lee knew about Steve's relationship with Lady Heroine, as some people still refer to her online and even read their private emails. What's even scarier is that it was Steve's own bodyguard who warned him of Marjorie's availability. Steve recalls, "One of my bodyguards kept in touch with Boomerang, and Boomerang kept in touch with Marjorie's friends." But what you may not know is that before he started working as a celebrity bodyguard, he was doing a certain kind of business offering lonely people time with luxury ladies. And it's not some secret because the man was always boasting about his past. Which only raises the question, what kind of relationship did Marjorie have with this man? I guess that was the subject of the next investigation. Back to Marjorie's dark past. Steve's ex-wife, Mary Lee, is convinced that, in addition to her 2 marriages to drug lords and alleged drug dealing and use, Marjorie also had a relationship with Boomerang. And, according to Mary Lee, at some point during his dark past, which feels like the future, Mrs. Harvey convinced her ex-boyfriend to speak up for her. In his love letter to his wife, Steve wrote, "On the day of our 15th anniversary of marriage, Boomerang gave me his phone call in 2005. I didn't know who the other person was on the other end. That's all for now. Thanks for watching."